So there was a question on like how would we build something like this? So using Mash, using Bifrost, using whatever tools we have. So I kind of am gonna get a quick start. I used a poly pyramid to kind of give me this basic shape. So there's nothing special about it, and then I mirrored it on the opposite side. And this is gonna act as like my main diamond. So I'm just gonna assign this. Let's just make an Arnold standard surface, whatever it might be, and let's just call this like, I don't know, you can use glass. I'm going to use frosted glass because I think that always ends up looking a little nicer. And then while I'm working, I'm going to make sure I have my default materials so I know what that's going to look like. So looking at the main part of the vase, or the chandelier, sorry, words, um, I know that it's going to be a certain kind of like top. So we can always, draw out very, very basic um, shapes, going something like that. And you feel free to split these up. Um, I don't know. There's usually a lot of these little things like that, and there's going to be a couple different um, shapes for each of these. Like there will also be, like a half sphere thrown in, or sorry, like thrown in there to be like the thing that's going to hold other parts. So like feel free to build this thing out of like, if you were to be building something like this, build it out of multiple shapes. So something like that might be okay. Um, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna grab that. I'm gonna do a surface loft, but let's make sure that I'm in polygons. I want quads. I always use my general fit because that'll kind of just give me something nice. Um, Sorry, not loft. I need a revolve. But again, polygons, general. Yep, 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 yep. All right, sweet, perfect. So now I can go in, make sure that I get the shapes that I want, and that's looking kind of clean. I'm going to work with two-sided lighting on so I kind of know what the shape is. And that's like what's kind of nice with this is like, again, we kind of get this for free, so you can kind of customize what you want your chandelier to kind of look like, to kind of do. Um, bring that. I'm just looking at the reference back and forth. Yeah, that's okay. So, I mean, whenever you're done with that, that's whenever you're done with it. So a lot of this shape is going to be using my baseline primitive here. So I'm going to zero this out. Okay, back at origin it goes. And I'm going to make this a mesh network. And I'm going to actually start to distribute them on the mesh. And I'm going to use my resolved surface as my mesh. And these guys, instead of setting a scatter, I'm going to have it be on face center, and I'm just going to hit flood. Maybe let's scale this down a little bit. You can see, if I hide this guy, we've kind of got this like nicer diamond looking thing already. What works really nicely with this method is that we don't really have to care so much about the materials because, if it's glass, it's going to be glass regardless. Like this guy can be metal, metallic, whatever it might be. Something like that. Let's do a little bit like that. And we can have this guy be an actual metal. Oops. Assign shader. Let's just make this one like a standard brushed metal. And let's build out some of those other pieces. So I'm going to use the same method. So I'm going to create curves, CV curve on my right view. And I know some of them are just moving straight up. So I'm going to do something like that to kind of give me that nice curve. And something like that. And I like this method because it helps me like, I can visualize things, but I can also, based on that, create a sweep mesh. And this sweep mesh, you can also put in a custom shape if you want to. I'm going to use a poly like so. I'm going to scale the profile in a little bit. And let's bring that precision up. Yeah, 100's looking good. 100's looking a little too dense though, so let's also maybe try 95. Yeah, it's looking okay. Maybe bring this guy down a little bit more. And so we can also mash this, and instead of it being linearly, we can do a radial on YZ. Let's keep that at 360, and let's bring that in a bit. Then in my ramps, let's see, how do I want to do this? I do want it YZ. I don't want the offset. Maybe I'll just go, let's do a transform on top of that. Offset, and I'm going to set this one to local, and I'm just going to offset it 90. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's negative 90. No, I guess it was 90. And then let's just move it in. Negative 1, negative 2. And I'm just kind of trying to place it, is the thing. So that kind of works for me. And this is all still based on this original sweep mesh. So if I wanted to really still customize this, I can. So I can go to my sweep, and let's say I wanted to do much more a cooler shape in there, I can always do the distribute. You see I've got a little bit cooler shapes. So I can start rotating these, sorry, not that one. I can start rotating the profiles a little bit. Let's do 720, or sorry, not rotate profile, twist. And do 720, and I can actually get very, very cool shapes in here as well. Let's extrude this guy in a little bit. Let's bevel that. And then we'll just extrude that out. So it's got a little bit nicer shapes. Let's go 2 and 2. Just to kind of keep that feeling. And then, it's kind of instancing off of the same kind of thing. So we can always just duplicate these or keep these mesh networks, because that's looking kind of okay. So now I can start to build the little bits of glass off of that. So if I want to do something say, the lights I'll do pretty much the same way. But if I'm starting to do, let's say there's these circular bits up here that come way down. And it's not that far down. It goes to about here. We can start to kill some of that stuff. Maybe do something like that. Bring that in a little bit. Again, this is another one of those where the sweep mesh comes in very, very handy. Because a sweep mesh, instead of this just being a rectangle, we can also do an arc. And you can see that's kind of where we're getting on the sides here. So we can get something a little bit nicer as we bring that precision up. So again, it's just very, very simple. And then on that sweep, because it's looking at the angle, so it's how wide do we want that angle. we can also change the profile, so we can change where it is along that mesh. So if I could just go like 10 or 0, and then let's scale this in, something like that. And I want to go 180, so it's on the other side. It's a little bit cleaner. No, I kind of like it on this side. I'm gonna not taper it, but I think that's looking okay. I think that looks okay. So yeah, if we keep the sweep going, we can do another mesh network, and then just basically have the same thing where I can just copy. I can always just duplicate this network, but I don't really like doing it that way. So I'm gonna just do another, what is it? Radial, and I'll just look back and forth. So radial ZX at 1.9, 1.9, and ZX. So perfect. And then I made an offset that was -2 and 90. So let's just do that. Do another offset. -2 and yeah, something like that. And this is local, so something like that. So that's kind of the starts of it, which is pretty nice because I can just have those both be that metallic shader that I made. I can have this main chandelier thing be that glass that I made. And then it's, it's slowly about just bringing out those shapes. So again, like, because there's these little like dangly bits, those dangly bits we can kind of do similarly. So I can create, so I'm going to just make a CV curve kind of along the same veins, not of the sweep mesh, but I want to do it off the curve this time. So I'm just going to draw in a couple of CVs here. And this one's going to be kind of easy, again, because I kind of just need it to be fairly flat. And I can duplicate this one off all over the place if I need to. But I'm going to move the components for this one. Instead of moving the whole thing, I'm just going to move the component. So if I just, that way, while I do this, like, it keeps the component count the same. 2, 3, 4, I think that looks okay. And then I'm going to go back to my original diamond, make that, and I'm going to distribute this on a, sorry, not a mesh. Well, yeah, we could do a mesh. It doesn't really matter what we do it on. I'm going to zero this out, though. We can do it on a mesh, and then you basically just have that string. But I'm going to use a curve, and then I'm going to use those 4 curves in there. And now, as I change the step to, like, say, 5, you can see that it's going to start to add and distribute those curves. Right? And then, again, I can use this with, like, a replicator. And I've got, what, 1, 2, I don't know, 8 of them, 10 of them. So let's try 9 on a rotation of, it's what? There's 9 of them, so it's what, 324? That's not bad. So, I mean, you can kind of see at a very, like, quick procedural way, we can start to really get into that, like, final looking render. So I'm going to actually hit render, and then I'll show you guys what the final render looks like. So again, not a lot of work, but we've got something that's very chandelier-like very, very quickly. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys some ideas.